Do you find that turn-based combat almost benefits when it's simpler as opposed to being very complicated?
I think there's a fine balance. Whereas like I've played like a variety of like super simple turn-based to like
what's like simple, like Pokemon?
Yeah, Pokemon is very simple, right? It's you choose between 4 moves at most, you know, some item management, and that's about it, and party management, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you play, you know, like some early Final Fantasy games, for example, where it's like, or like, you know, some of the Dragon Quest games where you just have like every character has like 70 different spells, 70 different items you can choose from.
I think it suffers quite a lot when it's overcomplicated because you just like, you look online, you're like, here's the most broken combo that you can do that one-shots enemies. Because the devs didn't think about combining fucking stupid spells together like this. And it's like, because how could you have? And the game's out and you can't patch it. And so like, maybe there's just, when it's too complicated, I always find there's either, you're either completely over-optimized and you're one-shotting everything later on in the game, or you're completely under-optimized because you're playing the game normally and you're like, I don't fucking know how this all interacts.
Yeah. Like, I think there is a balance. There's like a golden spot where there is some complexity to it, but there's not too much that you kind of get overloaded. Because
like pretty straightforward, right?
Persona is just like you do physical attack, you shoot a weapon, or you use spells. That's
nice.
For me, like Persona has that perfect balance. Some more traditional JRPGs, like I'm gonna go back to Trails, for example, which, you know, on top of its combat system, it has like the equipment system as well. And there are so many different fucking ways you can build a character, which is like great to some people, but I'm just like,
too much.
I just like, because here's the thing, for like in Trails, like it goes through like stages. So you have like, you have like a certain storyline, then you go to the next storyline, then the next storyline. And I was like looking up guides, and apparently there's like optimal builds you can do for each character that suits that like mission the most. And I'm like,
I hate those.
No,
and I'm like, this is too much prep time for me to play the game. I just want to play the game. I want to get through the story. But sometimes I spend like fucking hours just going to the shop being like, okay, what are the new items available now? What are the new quartz available now? Okay, how do I optimize these for my party, which is like already out of like 8 members in my party, so you need to choose 4 members from your 8-member party, and then out of those 4 members, you have to decide what equipment you want to give them, how you want to build them, and that's just for one mission. I extrapolate that for like 8 missions in terms of the entire game. I'm like, this is too much.
That was my exact problem with the new Fire Emblem game as well.
Right.
Where it's like, where I was like, that was the one game where I realized I was like, oh, maybe having too many playable characters is actually detrimental to the game. Because the new Fire Emblem game, you can literally play like 40 different characters. And it's like, and there's like guides online of like, all right, so with this character you can do this optimal build, and this character you can do this optimal build, unless you're going to be doing this mission with these characters. And I'm just like, I just want all the cute girls in my team, and just make them all OP and just fucking power through it. That's all I want to do.
It's a turn-based combat game with like 4 characters that feel fun to play and all feel very distinct and unique and have good personality and character writing. It's so much more compelling than 50 flashy characters that I can customize in a million different ways. I'm just like, just fucking give me something good. Don't throw a bunch of shit at me that looks pretty.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I know some people really love that aspect. They love like getting the spreadsheet out and trying to optimize the build. I am not that gamer. I want, like, for me, I'm a story kind of gamer. I just want to get through the story and just, you know, I want to feel a little bit rewarded for doing some cool shit in the gameplay, but I don't want to work that hard where I'm literally like spending hours upon hours trying to like read through stats,
I remember in the Fire Emblem one, I was like, all right, I'm gonna see like just what the internet has to say about like which characters might be best. Some motherfucker had created a fucking tier list of like literal tier list of the characters from like S to F, right? And I was like, all right, let's see where my choice of characters are. Majority of them were like D or F, and I'm just like, well, you know what? Fuck this list. I like these characters, so I'm gonna fucking use them. I don't care. Like all the top tier characters are like all the boring characters, and I'm like, okay, what's more important, me like having an easy time and like optimizing my gameplay to make it so that I just crush everything, or make it a little bit more challenging but just have the joy of playing the characters I actually want to play as, right? And I'll always take the latter in that instance.
And to me, like, a lot of that's a lot of reason why I don't like turn-based combat. It's because not only the turn-based combat itself, but the prep that comes before the turn-based combat. And I think the 2 games I've played where I've liked the turn-based combat is when they've hit that Goldilocks zone, where it's just you can prep, you can think about your team comp, but it doesn't take too much time and it's still rewarding. And the 2 ones are now Persona and now Honkai, because those have like hit the
Pokemon's good.
Zone. Pokemon?
I like Pokemon.
I tried getting Pokemon, but it's just too easy. I don't know. It's just too easy.
I mean, that's why people make artificial difficulty.
Yeah, you make challenges out of it.
Nuzlocke and stuff, because it, adds a whole nother layer to it.
I think Nuzlocks are also in that Goldilocks.
Yeah, Nuzlocks are great.
Of like, just, it's challenging enough where you need to do some prep work and you need to think about like team structure, but it doesn't take so much time that it takes the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, it's super rewarding when you win. It's super punishing when you lose, but it just makes you want to keep coming back, right? Like you've been doing a lot of Nuzlocke recently.
Yeah, I did Nuzlocke. It's just fun. People like it. It's easy to understand.
Yeah.
It's like Dark Souls for kids.
Dark Souls baby steps, man.
I like how Dark Souls is synonymous with just difficulty.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Dark Souls invented difficulty, actually. Difficulty in video games didn't exist before Dark Souls.
Definitely not.
That's also, sorry, not to go back to it again, but that's one thing I also really liked about that Fear and Hunger game is that like everything, because all the fights weren't necessary, it was really interesting because like you had a talk option with whoever you were fighting.
Right.
And it was always risky to do it because what if you talk to them, they just fucking clap you. And then you're like, shit, I lost a turn. But then like some ways, like the only way to get characters to join a party was mid-fight to talk to them. And this is never explained or anything like that. And it's really interesting.
Of course.
Because it was basically like how I described it to people and how people described it to me was Undertale meets Berserk. Is essentially that game. Which is why I like that. Because it was like fighting is cool and it's turn-based combat, but fighting isn't the only option. There's a lot of other ways of approaching
You're
it.
pacifist route.
You can do passive. Well, you actually got to fight some things. You can.
Pacifist route in Berserk. Let's see how well that goes.
It's like if Undertale, but if everyone wasn't reasonable. Like it was like because it's realistic, right? Because some of these things are monsters. They don't fucking want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Of course, the fucking disembodied monster with his dick out doesn't want to talk. Are you kidding me? No, it doesn't want to talk. It wants to kill you.
Yeah.
Why did you try and talk to you, idiot?
Yeah.
And it punishes you for that. So I like that. That felt real. I think I just need games with stakes. I think that's the problem is that turn-based combat, like a lot of RPGs or JRPGs give you a lot of saves. They're like very, very generous with saves a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And that almost kind of takes away from my enjoyment because I'm like, I just don't feel like I have any difficulty.
You're just too much of a gamer for
I'm
JRPGs,
the complete
man.
opposite. I need to be spoon-fed as
Yeah.
much as
What the fuck?
Why
Why do you not want to work for anything?
No, I like the idea of Nuzlocke, but like unless the game was designed that way, I'm like, why would I bring artificial difficulty to
It's
myself?
so much better than the base game. It's way more fun because it's actually like, because Pokemon, especially like new Pokemon, it's like goo goo gaga shit. Like that.
Yeah.
Everyone
But
gets,
we're also adults now.
yeah,
so-
I know, but like even like those games that are made for like.
Okay, but here's why I can never do something like a Nuzlocke. Okay,
tell me why.
When I'm playing,
I care about my Pokemon.
I do. I'm listening.
Okay, I don't know if this is a mental thing, but like when I'm beating a game that is designed to be difficult, it's like this is the way that it is designed, and I'm beating someone else's work. That is their work.
Yeah.
When I'm doing a Nuzlocke, I am putting difficulty upon myself. So basically, the only challenge, the only opponent I'm trying to beat here is myself, because I'm imposing all the difficulty on myself, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to.
I understand that.
Yeah. I don't want to challenge myself. I want to challenge someone else. I want to challenge someone else's design, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense, and I'm normally in the same boat with you.
Yeah.
I think there are just some exceptions where it feels like there is a challenge that is just lacking there, and that artificially making one does kind of solve a lot of the issues perhaps the game might have for somebody who, I mean, I'm not a kid. The Pokemon was not designed for me. But suddenly you add this kind of factor and it becomes a lot more, this is way more engaging suddenly, because now I'm not just going to go willy-nilly into every fight. I'm going to have to actually think. I'm going to have to plan. Just like randomized Nuzlocks are very fun, because you just like, imagine gacha, and then you just don't know where anything is, and you're just like, all right, this character just one-shotted me, and I have repercussions for that. I think that's the problem I have with a lot of games, is that they just often don't punish you ever. But then punishing is a difficult thing to do right. Like, how do you add punishment to a game or stakes to a game that don't actually just take advantage of your time as a player. And
Yeah.
and so I understand why a lot of games are like, let's just make a good game. Let's not do that, because also not everyone wants that. And I understand that, and I'm not imposing that on anyone. I'm not being like, you have to play it this way. Like, there's a lot of games out there, especially like story-driven games, where it's like, this is not made so that you struggle. Like, this is made so you can get to story beat to story beat. Maybe there's a hard boss here and there, but the most of it is pretty doable. Right?
Yeah.
And I understand that. But that's why a lot of those games I also don't go for, because that just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
It's like an interactive movie, right?
Well, yeah, like there's a lot of games I've played where I'm like, this is just the cutscenes, and then the gameplay is a vehicle to the next cutscene.
Yeah.
I haven't played like The Last of Us, but I imagine it's something similar. The gameplay's not that incredibly difficult, and it's more so about getting from A to B.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is 100% a story.
Right.
I mean, The Last of Us is a HBO series in a video game that they turned into a HBO series.
Yeah. Right? Like, I like that. I would never be like, you should do a fucking no-hit run of Last of Us. It's like, why? It's like you're trying to snort a milkshake. It's like, it should not. Yeah. Like, it's not made for that at all.
I was actually like, it's so weird now, because I did actually watch The Last of Us.
It's good.
Which was fucking incredible.
Insane.
Right? Absolutely incredible. But now, like, after I've watched the HBO Last of Us, I can never go back to playing the game, because to me, it's just so much better. I never played the game. Right.
But I watched the TV show, and I was like, man, they've given such a good depth to these characters. I just can't imagine how it would work in the game anymore. But I'm sure it does, but in my head, I'm like, I just don't know how.
Okay, because as someone who, like, I was very apprehensive about watching the Last of Us HBO series, because I'm just like, I've played the game, I know the story, what else is there to do? And I kind of realize now the difference when it comes to presenting a story in a video game versus just watching a movie or watching a TV series, because the story in the Last of Us HBO TV series was just like perfectly paced.
Yeah.
You know, it's just perfectly paced. And then now when I go back to playing the game, I cannot just think, okay, I'm getting the story in little increments.
Yeah.
Right? Because I need to splice in the gameplay in between those little increments. And, you know, Last of Us is it's a fucking great game, but it's not got the greatest gameplay in the world compared to other games in this genre. What the thing that made it stand out was the writing was so good, and the gameplay was good enough to be like, okay, this is good enough. It's not going to revolutionize the industry with its gameplay, but it's good enough to get you through the game and get you through the story. And now that the TV series exists, I'm like, shit. Now that the TV series exists, I feel like it's just completely made, it's completely made what The Last of Us game made that so special, just like mute now. Because I'm just like, if you want to experience the story of The Last of Us, I feel like you should just watch the TV series, because that's a better paced story that's told. It's not told better, but the way it's told,
it's presented better.
The way it's presented, just because of the nature of video games versus movies, it's just a better story. You know,
my favorite episode is like episode 3.
Holy shit! Which wasn't even in the TV.
I loved that. That was such a good episode, and such a good way of showing like characterization and how this zombie apocalypse would affect certain people. And I thought that was great.
I need to get on it.
It's so good. That was my favorite episode. But like, the one thing that I thought the show did really well, which obviously this is a lot easier to convey, and I felt like, and when I was watching it, I was like, how would you convey this in the game? Which was, they make violence, like violence against other humans, seem like a pretty traumatic thing for the young, like Ellie, the younger character, to experience. Yeah. Which in the game, I feel like when it's like, all right, go, you control the character, gun down 50 men. It just doesn't feel, impactful. But like watching maybe an actor do that and the ramifications of that, it definitely feels like, oh, yeah, violence is bad. Good.
Man discovers violence is bad.
Like, but in video games, you don't feel like violence is bad because you do it all the fucking time.
Of course,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and maybe I haven't played the game, so I don't know. But the one thing that's the one thing I was like, I wonder if this is why it was so divisive. You know, because obviously I don't even know what happened. I don't even know what happened in the second game, but I know the big plot twist because everyone it turned into like a woke right versus left thing.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's almost why. Like the second game was received kind of badly, was because maybe the game didn't characterize Joel in a way that made it seem I don't know. It's kind of spoilers, but I don't know. Like kind of questionable, maybe killing people all the time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the second game took a very, very big risk.
Yeah.
And I actually respect them for taking that risk because I didn't know how they were going to make it a sequel to The Last of Us. And they took a risk with their story. It didn't gel with everyone, but that to me is the sign of, you know, someone who wants to like push the limit and push the storytelling.
I could see HBO doing it right.
Yeah,
I could just see them doing it right. They're like the kings of doing controversial shit and like look at every goddamn Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Like they took The Last of Us, which is already a great story and great characters, and I think they made it better. And that is what I took out from being apprehensive about watching The Last of Us originally. And now I'm just like, if you want to experience The Last of Us, I'd say just watch the TV series because it's so fucking good.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Really fucking good.
Yeah.
Super hyped for the next season in like 10 years.
Yeah.
Never I fucking get that. It's going to be so long.